let's start with your beginnings. Can you tell us, first of all, where you're from, your hometown, where did you grow up?
All right. I come from a very small town in
Yeah.
KwaZulu-Natal called Eshowe. And they're in a very small village. It's called Como. It's actually a throw stone away from Gandla. So I could actually walk to the president's home.
The famous Nkandla Forest, which I believe is a home of many, many events in Zulu history.
Yes, it is. It is, and there's still many more things that are happening there. That natural things that as Zulus we believe in and always look forward to. Yeah.
So, where did your career journey start? Where did you study and what did you study?
So I went to a boarding school. It's called Mlogotwa. It's in the northern KwaZulu, north of KwaZulu Natal, Nongoma. And I finished my matric there, and then I went to Howard College, or what is now known as University of KwaZulu Natal,
Right.
and I did a BCom degree in investment finance and corporate finance. I also did a bit of information management. And when I completed my degree, I got an opportunity to join Standard Bank, Investment and Corporate Bank, as a graduate, as part of the graduate program. And that's where my career really started. Because I joined the bank, got exposure to investment banking, to IT. I also furthered my studies, went to Wits Business School, did postgraduate diploma in management. And that's where really it all started, yeah.
So, you started at Standard Bank in Durban, I
Now
assume?
here in Johannesburg, I finished my degree and then I moved to Johannesburg. That was in 1998.
Okay.
So I've been in Johannesburg for quite a while, and I've been with the bank for a while as well.
Right. And what were the stations in your Standard Bank journey? Where did you start and how did you move up to executive?
It was a journey. So I started, like I said, as a graduate, and you get to rotate and move around and get exposure on how the banking industry works. But I think 2 years later, I decided to leave the bank because I had other aspirations. I wanted global exposure, I wanted to travel, so that opportunity wasn't really available at the time. So I went and I joined Dimension Data, and I got an opportunity to be part of the programs that they were running in London, through Premier Funnel in Chicago. So I got to travel a bit and I got the exposure. I also just got to understand the consulting world, learned a lot. I was stretched, and when I came back from those programs, I then started my own consulting company. I called it Anne Marjorie, and I did work for like the DTI. I did work even for the bank, and then in 2006, I was here in the bank consulting, and they asked me to rejoin because they were buying a bank in Nigeria, IBTC. So I joined and I became part of that team that was in Nigeria, integrating the two banks. Spent a lot of time in Nigeria, 2006, 2007, and a bit of 2008 at the beginning. And then I came back to SA, to do other things within the bank as well. So it hasn't been a continuous service. I left, and I came back in 2006. But since then, I've been with the bank until now, 2017. When I came back from Nigeria, Nick, when you out of South Africa, because the bank is headquartered here, when you're out of SA, even though they know you exist, but it's very hard for them to manage your career because you're in and out. When I came back and the program was finished, I don't think they had a plan for me around where I would then be placed. So I came back and they tried to find a strategy position for me, which really didn't work out. And then one of the IT heads resigned. He was the head of Africa IT development. And then they asked me to take that position. I said, no, it's going to be for a short while whilst we're trying to find something for you. And I found myself in IT, deep in IT, in application development for probably a period of 3 years. very uncomfortable at first because I had to learn a lot of technical things, and I was looking after the rest of Africa. So there were a lot of complexities that came with the role. But 2 years later, I understood, and I think I began to enjoy it and to enjoy the world of IT. But I still felt it just wasn't where I wanted to be. So I then tried again to look for something else that would speak to me, because I'm very enterprising. I'm just that way inclined. And I moved to finance, because I did finance for a while. Then I was pregnant. Then I took long maternity leave, trying also just to figure out what I wanted to do at the time. And that was in 2011. When I came back from maternity, I went to start a new role in Channel, South Africa retail. And I was looking at a program that looked at optimizing the channel, so multi-channel optimization program that looked at all the channels we have, the physical and the online, to look at how to ensure that we don't oversupply the channels, we don't overinvest, we balance them out, we get to understand where our customers are wanting to transact, where we are present, and try to get the alignment. So we worked on that. It was very data driven, because we had to understand where your clients open accounts, where they transact, what channels we have, align all of those things, understand what capability sits in what channel. So what can you do with what? So I did that. As I was in that program, because it was very much data driven, there was an opportunity to go and be the head of data services for the group. And that's where I moved into an executive role. And that was in 2012, 2013, 2012.
Yeah. And that is data services.
Data services, yeah,
Okay.
information. So data warehouse is managed there. All the bank's data is meant to reside there, but obviously there's a lot of legacy that some of the data might not be in the data services space, but that's where we manage our data. So I headed that team for a while. Again, I found myself back in IT. I just couldn't. For some reasons, it's very confining. You're enabling the business, but you can't really see things through to a point where you touch the customer, to a point where we see a life changing. So it depends on how you're inclined. Some people love that kind of supportive role. I'm just not in that way. So I then found myself, I was there for a period of, I joined this team 2 years ago. So I was there 2013, 14, and beginning of 2015, I moved back into business to join the rest of Africa team.
Right.
In personal and business banking, and I'm heading their customer insights, their data management, and data governance. And it's basically the whole data capability that I'm leading and driving for the rest of Africa. So I don't do much work for SA. I do most of the work building the capability, providing support for all the other countries that we're present in the rest of Africa.
So,
And there's my role now.
so you're a little bit of a data scientist.
I had to learn. I did information management at school, so I have the understanding and the background. I just didn't practice it. But now that I'm in the role, I had to then learn, study, revise, review. So I'm in that role. I've got a team that focuses on data science. So yes.
And tell me, for our listeners, what would you say was a turning point in your career? What was really the defining moment that took your career to the next level?
Wow, I guess that constant learning and probably avoiding to be confined in spaces that I didn't want to be in. I always knew what I wanted, and I always knew that I want to be in a role that would touch customer in a particular way, that would drive the strategy, that will make a difference. I'm not a person who likes to just maintain the status quo, but I'm very transformational. So I suppose just that is what took my career to the next level, or gave me that leap, because I was always just trying to break the grounds and trying to find something new, that I could do something different that would speak to me.
So what would you say is driving Thula? What is getting Thula excited? What is it that makes you jump out of bed every morning?
If there's something new that I'm doing that hasn't been done before, or I'm driving a new initiative or something that's different, and I'm not certain how it's going to pan out, that drives me because I always am wanting to succeed. There will always be failures in life, but I'm always just striving for success. So that drives me. If I'm maintaining and doing things and it's business as usual, really that just it kills me inside.
So you're an entrepreneur at heart.
I would say that. I will say that, and I'm always doing something else. Now I'm obviously doing work for the bank, but I founded the Data Scientist Association, and that is just when I sit and think and get to look at where the industry is, the challenges that you're all facing as corporates. I felt somebody needs to do something about it, and if I don't, nobody probably would. So I started speaking to Barclays, speaking to Nedbank, F&B, and all the peers in the industry, and the data scientists and those in data management. Say, guys, let's come together and build this association to help us define what this new career is all about, this new role is all about. Let's come up with the frameworks that will define it. Even ways of certifying these guys, because we need to know who we're dealing with. And that's what the association is driving. So I'm always just looking for new things and looking at how could I make a difference, create a legacy.
Now, I also believe that Thula has got a big heart. I believe you are involved in pro bono activities. Can you tell us a little bit more?
All right. So you may recall that I mentioned earlier that I came from a very small village in KwaZulu-Natal. And I grew up as a rural girl, and I got to understand the challenges that rural girls face. And I then, on those bases, now that I founded an NPO called the House of Pearls. And part of the work that we do is to support rural girls, and we provide bursaries. We look at moving them out of their homes into boarding schools where they will be able to learn in an environment that is enabling. And I understand that because when I started as a child as well, I was staying with my grandparents, going to a local school. It just didn't work. But when my mom moved me from the local school to boarding school, then I saw things differently. And I think that's actually where my life truly began. So that is what I'm trying to replicate for the other girls in KZN, especially with the girls that are with their grandparents who can't even help them with homework. Initially, we tried to give them bursaries where they were and to buy them clothes, and it just doesn't work because the environment itself is just not enabling. So that's one of the things that we're focusing on. Secondly, because I've been in corporate, and banking is very male-dominated, so is IT, so is data science. I felt there is a need to support fellow women in corporate. So we run a lot of workshops with sponsorship where we look at how do we empower women and educate them and give them the right skill for them to live their truth in corporate and for them to be able to navigate and get to where they're wanting to get to. Economies or American economies have. We can leap and we can just be ahead of them. Be practical, be real, address the real problem, you'll succeed.
So would you say with the explosion of the smartphone, of mobile phones, which are projected to double by 2020, that the next wave of technology of apps will come out of Africa, and that these would be apps that are not so much focused on photo sharing and the nice to haves, but on real problems?
Yeah.
Real needs.
Addressing the real needs. That is where I see this. Obviously, we've got countries in Africa that are more advanced, like Egypt. Facebook usage is huge. There's South Africa. I'm in Kenya. But I do believe that in Africa, it's going to be addressing the real problems and real challenges that we're facing. Mobile is still sitting at about 67%. There's penetration in Africa. Obviously, I can't say smartphones. I don't have the numbers. But that's a large percentage. So leveraging off that could yield great benefits, not just for the financial sector, transport, and many more other sectors that could make use of mobile penetration to advance their businesses.
So it could literally change the big problems of society, education, health, transport, food, possibly?
It could. Because then suddenly you've got access to markets. There is a lot that could be done if there's connectivity. Connectivity does a lot because then you're able to engage, you're able to speak to suppliers, to farmers. There is a lot that you can do if there's just communication channels. So I do believe it will really change how we do things.
So would you agree that communication is really so critical to the development of societies and of us humans?
It's key. It is. Because without, firstly, you've got to understand what's happening out there. You're going to understand the opportunities, the challenges, where you might need to play. If you don't have that, then therefore, you kind of like aiming blindly. You don't even know where you're going. But if you have that the open channels, there's communication, there's understanding, then you can even be able to, as a small business, carve your own strategy because you understand. You could even be able to learn from other markets, from other communities, from other countries, and come and adapt that for your business or for the community you're serving. So knowledge is power, and internet, the mobile connectivity or connectivity, it gives us that.
So can you share, Thula, what are the key technologies that you're utilizing in building the bank of the future?
Digital, obviously, it digitizing the bank and changing the processes as well. So it's not just digitizing the traditional stuff, but it's reviewing the processes that you have to make them more consumer or client or customer focused and to try and address clients' challenges. So that is one. There's a lot of technologies now that you could utilize in the space. When you talk about machine learning, when you talk about robotics, which have been there for a while, but I think they've been repackaged. There's artificial intelligence that now could be embedded into these apps. So there's a lot that you could utilize to just drive innovation in banking. So that is one, digitizing. The mobility, mobile phones, you could use that because we already have some of these digital apps that we're driving, people that can now do digital banking. So there is that as well. We're also just looking at other industries outside banking to look at how do they do things differently. Now, if you take Uber, the use of information, we also need to look at that, and I think most of the banks are now beginning to say, we have so much information that we're generating, that we have about our clients. How do we best use it to drive a better service? How do we drive client centricity on the basis of what we know about our customers? And even beyond the information that we have as a bank, there's more information available now on our clients, on social media and other channels. How do we augment what we already have to get to understand our customers better? There's even terms in the industry that we're moving from KYC to understand your customers, KYC being know your customer, to understand your customer, because the information is there. So we really need to harness it, harvest it, get to a point where we monetize it and get value out of information. So if we can use our information well to drive client centricity, use digital tools and innovation to really drive new ways of banking and new ways of servicing, and use the mobile phone penetration and the infrastructure we have. I mean, there's digital currencies that we could leverage off. Really, it's up to us how we drive this. And those banks that will take the leap and innovate and be the leaders, I do believe, are the ones that will succeed.
So it's really about leadership, providing leadership in the industry, and think leadership to your customer as well.
Yes, it's all, the way I say it, we actually have to wear the shoes of the customer in everything we do. Because now customers have got a choice. It's no longer, before I would look at my mom when she goes to a bank to probably get a loan or even apply for an account. It was a nerve-wracking experience because your bank manager was the person that would determine your life, your future, whether you're getting the loan or not. These days, there's so many options. So as banks, we really now need to look at it and say, how do I actually get the customers to choose me compared to the other, rather than out of desperation they come and they beg.
Now, as a leader, would you say it is also about not just wearing the customer's shoes, but maybe providing the customer with different shoes? Let's say they're wearing sandals and you would be providing them with running shoes.
Of course, yes. So so some of the customers are well advanced in terms of understanding what they want, but there's going to be a lot of education as well that we need to do. And the innovation is not just to provide the basic needs, but to also need to innovate to make our customers' lives even better. We know what's possible in many instances as banks, so we need to be able to provide what's possible, even to the extent where the customers aren't expecting it. And that's where really you get the competitive edge as a bank, because you'll be providing a service that the client will be wowed by, because they never expected that. So yes, when your clients are wearing sandals, you might need to say, you know what, the journey you in requires running shoes. Then you give them running shoes.
Well, also as an innovation leader, Thula, you must be a role model to many future leaders. Are you quite aware of that aspect of your career, and how are you harnessing it?
I never really focused on that. I guess I just do what I need to do, but I have a number of programs that I'm running to build those that are the pipeline and those that are coming probably behind me and us. I run a graduate program here in the bank that is driving data science, and part of it I give the graduates exposure to international markets. We send them to India for 3 months. It's a data science boot camp where they learn technical skills, and I'm building them. And I guess I suppose they will see me as a role model in that instance. So there is that I'm using what I've learned and my understanding to build others and the young talent. I'm also running an internship program in the bank. It's data science. Very great youngsters from universities who've done biochemistry, who've done applied mathematics that I'm building again into data scientists. It's a very new profession, so we're all learning. But we're working with them to see where they will end up, and we're piloting different things. So I'm using the position that I have and the understanding that I have to build the young talent. And I do believe that data science could be used to advance Africa, could be used to advance the previously disadvantaged economies. It is a science at the end of the day.
So this is definitely a job of the future, a profession or a career of the future, a data scientist.
It is, and I do believe that for now we have it defined that way. In the future, it's just going to be part of everything that you do. I don't think there will be a role that says this is a data scientist, but everybody in corporate will have to understand data science, be part of that one way or the other. Journalism these days, digital is part of the world of journalists. They need to understand that. Data, so it's no longer about research or speaking to people. You have to be able to harness and harvest the data as a journalist to make sense of it. So every career, marketing, finance, auditing, data is going to be that invisible thread across all the careers, all professions, all corporates, all industries, I do believe.
Now, Thula, can you share some of the biggest success stories of Standard Bank in establishing leadership as a bank of the future?
If you look at, obviously there's still infrastructure challenges in the rest of Africa, but if you look at how we're driving digitization, how we're driving mobile banking across Africa, I do feel that we're one of the leading banks in that. We're also very open-minded around partnership and integrating some of our applications with the fintech world. In Kenya, we actually integrate into M-Pesa. So it's as a bank, we wanting to drive, and we're not wanting to do it in isolation. We're constantly looking for those that we can partner with. If you look at South Africa, SnapScan is part of the offerings that we have. So we're constantly looking and constantly seeing the fintechs come, and we review and see what we could use, where we could partner with partner. So that's just how we're approaching it.
So it's very much an open mind, open source mindset. Is that right? It's not closed off, not sticking to your knitting, but really looking beyond.
Yes, it's looking beyond, and it's also just looking at what's happening in the industry, and we don't want to be left behind. And think, no, we have a brand, we're a traditional bank, everyone knows about it. We're constantly moving forward, adapting, changing, innovating. Where we could take the lead, we take the lead. There's very good work that's being done in South Africa now around just getting to understand the client, and I'm certain that in the future you'll be able to see a different bank.
So which countries would you say in Africa should we be watching for the next leap in technology?
Personally, if I just look at sub-Saharan Africa, because we're not really present in the North Africa, I'll say Kenya. There is a lot of innovation happening in Kenya. You saw the Facebook CE even went to Kenya. So there is something happening there. Beyond that, they're developing the right kind of skill in technology. So that would drive innovation. I do believe that Kenya could actually be the hub of technology skills. They could supply the rest of Africa, because when I engage with even data scientists, we're getting universities like Strathmore that are now building data science degrees, and they're wanting to advance that. And the country itself has got a vision, and they're looking at being the financial hub for East Africa. So I would say Kenya is one of those economies that would take the leap. And then obviously, because they're part of the East African bloc, it would filter through.
So is it correct to say that education, and possibly digital education, is more important than ever?
It is now, because we're really in the digital economy. One friend of mine said to me, "No, Thula, if the economy has gone digital, and we live in that, information is then the currency. So getting to understand the information you have and to monetize it and to leverage off this digital economy that we're now building is the future."
Now, where can people get hold of you? Where should they follow you? On what social media channel would you like them to interact with you?
Actually, very bad. I would say LinkedIn. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if I've tweeted, and I have maybe once or twice, but LinkedIn is where they could follow me. I'm also on Facebook, but Facebook is more personal, so LinkedIn is where.
So LinkedIn is the best channel.
Yes.
And then the last thing really that I think is important is, when it comes to innovation, what is the one thing you would really like listeners to take away from this interview? What is it you would like them to think about, to focus on, and to look at when it comes to innovating, and when it comes to not just building the bank of the future, but building the company of the future?
I would say that obviously understand the trends, and don't only look at your own industry. Look at the trends globally, outside your industry, within your industry, to get to understand what's truly happening. Engage as broad as you can, because more knowledge that you have about the client, about the services out there, would be able to be a good contributor in what you then do next. So that is what I would drive. As again, I would re-emphasize, you have to be practical about it. Address the challenges that are on the ground in an innovative way, and if you did that, you definitely succeed. Look at Uber. Uber is actually, even though they're information based, but they're addressing challenges of having to call a cab and you wait and they don't come and you call them back and you check. It's so simple. They've made our lives as customers or as users of taxis very much easy. So therefore, even though it's innovative and we see it, but it's addressing a challenge. Because if it was just something that's so abstract, nobody will buy into it. So try and identify a challenge and address it in an innovative way.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Thula. This concludes the interview with Thula Ngonyama from Standard Bank.